Many of you will be familiar with United States Air Force NGAD program, aimed at producing a sixth-generation family of systems. It is a borderline science fiction program that is stimulating the fantasy of many enthusiasts. However, I am pretty sure that much fewer of you are familiar with the NGAD program, which is almost as science fiction-like, but very few have heard about it.
This was a dirty trick, sir.
Well, Otis, it is true that the Air Force NGAD and the Navy NJAD are sometimes pronounced differently despite having the same spelling. And in fact, dear viewers, the Air Force and the Navy have a program to do the same thing with the same name, but completely separate. The reason being, albeit not stated out loud, was that the Navy did not want another main platform joint program after the experience of the F-35. The two programs may share some of the technologies, but each one is taking its own direction. The Navy program is more often referred to as the FAXX, but strictly speaking, this is only the piloted component of the family of systems that are in the program scope. And there's news about the FAXX, and some are quite perplexing. The Navy started thinking to a new aircraft in 2012, even before the Air Force. At the time, the F-35C was still in the future, and the U-class program aimed at casting the foundation of unmanned carrier operations was ramping up. The idea was to build an aircraft capable of operating within a highly contested or even denied for other aircraft airspace. To do so, stealth is obviously a requirement, but it wasn't pushed as much as with the Air Force NGAD. The Navy, in fact, was envisioning an entirely new family of weapons, kinetic and non-kinetic, capable of suppressing air defenses and airborne threats. This will be cued by a new family of sensors and a full integration into the counter-air component of the Naval Integrated Fire Control concept. In this way, the aircraft sensors would have been a node in a network, and the targeting information for the weapons could be derived either by the onboard sensors or by external sensors on some other platform, with the FAXX itself being one of the high-end nodes within the network. And the non-kinetic weapons were supposed to be capable and effective enough to eliminate the need of a specialized platform like the F-18G Growler. Obviously, the aircraft specifications, which are not entirely public, included some requirements that are a must for modern combat aircraft, like a supercruise, in-flight refueling, design with an open architecture for fast evolution, and a payload not inferior to the F-18. But an unprecedented feature was to be the optionally crewed capability. This was seen as an aircraft feature, but also as the seed of a family of unmanned platforms based on the FAXX. Adaptive cycle propulsion was also proposed for the aircraft. This subject would deserve a video on its own, and a long one, but here it is enough to say that the idea is to have a turbofan that has more than two flows, whose relative configuration could change to adapt to different flight conditions. Therefore, you could have an economic cruise mode that greatly increases the range in a performance setting that increases thrust for combat. Two engines from Pratt & Whitney and General Electric are already operational, at least on the test rig, and they are the foundation for the use of NGAD propulsion. The analysis of the concept alternative has been completed in 2019. In the following years, the industry was involved, and the end of this stage is expected in 2025, when one design among the usual Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman will be selected. And on a personal level, I have to say that this is quite boring. It is always the same names. In the meanwhile, though, the program funding has been reduced by over 40% to make room for other priorities. Despite this setback, the Navy seems confident that the project will proceed regularly, albeit on an extended timeline. And now, after a relatively long period of silence, we have some more interesting news. Rear Admiral Michael Donnelly, director of the Air Warfare Division in the Office of the Chief of Naval Operations, which is a mouthful, released an interview at the beginning of November 2024, where he spoke about the program in general. The first point is that the FAXX is not influenced by the current stop of the use of NGAD. The two programs are different and not connected. In fact, the Air Force NGAD is going through a revision of its concept and capability, whose purpose is to cut the unit cost to the level of the F-35, and good luck with that. It is also possible, albeit unlikely, that it will never see the light of the day, supplanted by a light fighter concept. The Navy, though, is totally unfazed by this change of tack. The specifications and the requirements are clear and stable, and after the milestone B, that is the choice of a specific design, the program will be ready for the engineering and production stage. Now, we already knew that it was going to be a different airframe from the Air Force, but it was unclear whether the adaptive cycle technology was going to be adopted by the Navy. Now we know that the Navy made a choice, but the reason for the choice is not explicitly stated, but somehow it's easy to imagine. The FAXX is a carrier-based aircraft, and the carriers move. I'm sure I'm not surprising anyone. Therefore, the additional range provided by the increased fuel efficiency of adaptive cycle technology is sort of less needed. A conventional engine would de-risk the project in respect of an important component like propulsion. Therefore, the answer is no. The engine for the FAXX will be a new engine, but it will be derived from an existing one with the general configuration of a traditional military turbofan. The other technology explored by the Navy was the optional crew. The benefits of an optional crewed platform are quite easy to understand. A high-end platform will be available for dangerous missions without putting a human at risk, but also the aircraft would be capable of returning to base autonomously in case the crew was incapacitated. Moreover, a platform that was capable of flying largely autonomously while the pilot manages the systems would be very useful in several situations, including coordinating the operation of several unmanned aircraft. However, the Navy again said no. The FAXX will be piloted, it will require a human in the cockpit, and it will have no particular autonomous capabilities. However, the Navy is working on drone integration with the platform along the lines of the Air Force CCA project. In fact, the Navy has a long-term integration project to progressively move towards a partially unmanned carrier air wing, and this process is starting right now. In fact, the MQ-25 area refueling unmanned drone is basically entering service as we speak. Some say it is a very modest start, but I believe it is a commendably cautious approach.
Are the viewers interested in your opinion, sir?
Otis, sometimes you can be really unpleasant. Huh?
Not more than you leaving dirty laundry lying around at my operating level, sir.
Okay, never mind. Furthermore, there is another element that has emerged in the interview that is quite perplexing. The US Navy has been relying for a long time exclusively on the F-18 platform in the variants E, F, and G. The Super Hornet had to do each and every mission on the book, and this was not normal. Historically, the Navy split its carrier wings in an air-to-ground and air-to-air component. Obviously, all modern platforms are multi-role, so they can switch from a mission to another. However, the Pacific squadrons, even with the same aircraft, focus more on air-to-surface or air-to-air in their training, and even the mission planning follows this framework. Since when the F-35C entered service, the units equipped with the stealth aircraft focused on the air-to-surface role, while the Super Hornets focus on the air-to-air. Not all carrier wings are on this organization yet, but this is the plan. The FAXX is supposed to replace the Super Hornets. We have known this for a long time, and this is only logical. You replace the older aircraft. However, in the interview, it was specified that the focus is conducting long-range fire missions and sea control, not air-to-air. Obviously, the aircraft is going to be an excellent air-to-air platform, but the focus is not there. This is quite perplexing because it might lead to a carrier wing with relatively limited air-to-air capabilities. Some professional American commentators have been vocal critics of this approach, which may lead to a less capable carrier wing in the future. This idea of keep pursuing a jack of all trades but masters of none is not always seen positively. If I have to find an explanation, well, my opinion is that the US Navy doesn't expect to operate in an environment where defeating the opponent in the air would be really necessary. For the entire Cold War, the main target for the air-to-air component of the carrier wing was the Soviet naval aviation and its regiments of long-range bombers launching supersonic missiles. These do not exist anymore. China is building some capabilities, but it seems to focus more on aeroballistic missiles rather than conventional cruise and sea-skimming missiles. Furthermore, there is no other blue water navy which could mount a Battle of Midway-style attack that needs to be countered with air-to-air missions. The Chinese are making progress in this direction, but they still have a long way to go. Moreover, the Western doctrine expects to gain air superiority at the beginning of a conflict, attacking the aircraft on the ground and destroying all the infrastructure that supports their operations. And if you consider all of this, it becomes reasonable that the air-to-air mission is put on the back burner. I guess the pilots won't be very happy, but such is the requirement. So overall, how is the progress of this program? Well, it's still early days, but I think that the Navy is taking a very sensible approach, trying not to pick up too much risk. And this is very understandable, even in the light of the not-so-great record that the Navy demonstrated with its recent platforms. So while the Air Force went straight for the moon, the Navy went for a fine glass of wine in a classy place. And I think I might go too, if you excuse me.
Undue title, sir.
So thank you very much for watching this short video. It is a privilege to having had your attention. If you can, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon by being a member or on GoFundMe or any other of the means available. An enormous thank you to all those who are already supporting the channel. You are absolute stars. You are essential to this operation. And if you can't support the channel financially, which is perfectly fine, please just subscribe. A lot of the people who watch the channel are not subscribed, and I don't know why, but also like, leave a comment, interact in any way. It really helps immensely with the algorithm. So, this is the end. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. And cut, I suppose.